Yo, Penguin, what up, Penguin? Oh, cat cam was off this whole time. Thunder only happens when it's raining. Birds only love you when they're playing. You know, happens when it's raining. All right. Hope everyone's having a good Saturday. I got work tomorrow, so I'll probably have a relatively short stream compared to yesterday. We'll try to do one more chapter on vanishing culture. And then I don't have it in me to do dev stuff today because I've been working all afternoon on compliance stuff for my work. We'll end it with some gaming. All right. It's the lo-fi metal. How are you, Penguin? What's been up? What is cooking in your life? Bow, 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 bow. Bow, 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 bow. Turn the music down. Sometimes the music settings are persistent. Sometimes they reset. I don't get the deal. Okay. Recent digital vanishing and preservation efforts. Ooh, my YouTube title needs to be adjusted. Can I adjust it mid-screen? Oh, I can, right? Part 2. Over the last few years alone, rights holders have needlessly cut short the lifespan of digital information and culture. Recent digital information and culture. Bring that here. That while publishers might not be willing to keep their works around for the public good, attentive individuals and memory institutions will, provided that they are legally empowered to own and lend digital materials. This part explores very recent instances of digital vanishing and identifies the preservation efforts led by the Internet Archive, which have assured public access to digital culture. Recent web vanishing and preservation. If you put something online, it's there forever. Year after year, that maxim continues to be proven false. Significant cultural hubs that seemingly have the impression of lasting forever have also been sites of large-scale, unrecoverable loss. Whether it is fanfiction.net deleting tens of thousands fan fiction at will, Tumblr inaccurately taking down users' artwork under the capacious label of adult content. Imgur removing old, unused, and inactive content. Gawker shutting down after tech billionaire Peter Thiel bankrolled a vendetta lawsuit against it. Or MySpace accidentally losing 12 years of independent music, totaling more than 50 million songs from 14 million artists. Most websites are not long-term archives, and their owners, often media conglomerates, are not archivists. The history of 21st century internet culture breaks. Hello? I just got a new spot to sit at. Okay, let me bring him up here. Come. The history of 21st century internet. Hello. Okay. I just found a new place to sit. Okay. Happy? Happy? History of 21st century internet culture breaks without access to these sites of literary and artistic production. Their plight reminds us that if the web is not actively preserved, then unfathomable amounts of culture and information will disappear. Web vanishing is subject to the May 2024 report by Pew Research Center, When Online Content Disappears, the study of web. Am I on just chatting? Oh, the online content study of web page availability over time, sampling a random selection of nearly 1 million. Uh, 1 million URLs from 2013 to 2023. Pew reports that a whopping quarter of all web pages that existed at one point between 2013 and 2023 are no longer accessible. The numbers are far worse for older web pages, with Pew reporting that 38% of the sampled web pages from 2013 are no longer accessible. Lastly, Pew's report sampled URLs from government and news websites, Twitter posts, and Wikipedia references, reporting significant losses in each of these spheres of the web. URLs preserved in the Wayback Machine. Pew datasets, 5.4 million URLs, 26% being dead, 10% of being vanished, 18% endangered, 16% from that 26% was restored, and 56% preserved of the 74 that's alive. URLs not currently preserved in the Wayback Machine. Dead URL accessible through the Wayback Machine. Fortunately, these numbers do not tell the complete story, as Pew's report does not account for web pages preserved by the Internet Archive's Wayback Machine. Mark Graham, the director of the Wayback Machine, and Dr. Sawwood Allam, the research lead of Wayback Machine, have been examining how many of Pew's sampled URLs are archived in the Wayback Machine. They obtained the original data set minus the Twitter data of 5.4 million URLs from Pew, then checked those URLs against the Wayback Machine to see when, if ever, each URL was archived. Their full report is forthcoming, but the pair can preliminarily report that around 62% of the URLs that Pew classified as practically dead are actually archived in the Wayback Machine at least once. This means that without the Wayback Machine, 16% of Pew's sampled URLs. There's a ban. What happened? This means that without Wayback Machine, 60% of Pew's sampled URLs, which constitute a sample of the web, will be gone. The preservation of these URLs is a huge win for public knowledge, but a win that must be tempered by the fact that around 10% of Pew's sampled URLs are practically lost. Further, the team identified 18% of Pew's URLs as endangered, meaning that they are presently available on the live web, but they have not yet been archived and are thus at risk of completely disappearing should they ever go down. Putting aside the entertainment and scholarly value in preserving these websites, preserving the web is necessary for maintaining a fact-driven, political-informed populace who increasingly rely on the internet to acquire information. 2014 study published in the Harvard Law Review found that 49.9% of the links in all Supreme Court opinions either did not contain the information originally cited or contained information that had changed materially or were outright broken. A 2023 Pew study reported that 86% of US adults used a digital device to get their daily news. And only 5% prefer print over digital and television news. Print information is historically useful in its immutability. A newspaper purchased on the date of a child's birth will have the exact same content when it is given to them on their 18th birthday. In the case of public memory and accountability, thousands of individuals and libraries holding the same physical copy of, say, the New York Times ensures that history cannot be erased. If someone wants to edit or delete the content of an article printed in a physical newspaper after it has been published, they would need to track down and destroy every copy. Preservation, then, is not only about venerating our cultures and communities, but also understanding our past and present and turning a critical gaze on them when necessary. By Kate P. Livingston. Preserving Cookbooks. The same is woefully untrue for digital sources, which let me pen the article. To escape a political memory hole, it is instrumental that journalism and other factual information is preserved and made available to the public. As misinformation scholar Claire Wardle writes in her contribution to this report, if we want to understand the mechanisms by which misinformation moves through the information ecosystem, we absolutely need the ability to search archives of television, radio, and print, both newspapers as well as digital outlets, many of which we are seeing shutting down without archiving the site. One notable slew of web takedowns in 2024 was at the hands of Paramount, who took down the MTV News and CMT websites, which collectively archived decades of entertainment history and journalism. Fortunately, for the hundreds of journalists who saw their work disappear overnight, and for cultural historians, the Wayback Machine has saved over 470,000 pages from MTV news sites since 1997 and 70,000 pages from CMT News since 2002. Those numbers are wonderful and should be celebrated, but it is important to note that the Wayback Machine does not archive everything. Worse, there are no other comparable public archive. Without the Wayback Machine, these sites very well may have permanently vanished from public access. 470,000 pages from MTV have been preserved by the Internet Archive since 1997. And 70,000 pages from CMT News since 2002. Internet Archive is essential at ensuring that we have an understanding of what was happening on the internet at any given point in time. That is not something that is constantly useful, but it is something that is occasionally extremely useful. By Philip Bump from the Washington Post. Paramount additionally acts the Comedy Central website, causing the site's extensive television clip archive to completely disappear from public access. Notably, this takedown caused the disappearance of early seasons of the Colbert Report alongside the Jon Stewart era of The Daily Show. Episodes that are historically significant for their biting criticisms of the war in Afghanistan and Iraq. These shows have a scarce and very limited physical releases. When they disappear online, they're gone for good. In response to these removals, Variety magazine received the following statement from Paramount global representative. As part of a broader website changes across Paramount, we have introduced more streamlined versions of our site, driving fans to Paramount Plus to watch their favorite shows. Unsurprisingly, Paramount Plus does not have it all. A search on the platform as of September 2024 reveals that only the two most recent seasons of The Daily Show are available for streaming, and none of the Colbert Report is available. Researchers, educators, and fans can turn to the Internet Archive's TV News Archive for some relief, which has searchable recordings available for Colbert Report from 2011 to 2014 and The Daily Show from 2011 to 2015. As for streaming episodes, as for the remaining episodes, effectively gone, as streaming continues to churn out record subscribers and profits every year, as conglomerates continue to control the entertainment market, and as the absence of ownership prevents collectors from saving materials, we can only expect that more creators, regardless of their popularity, will vanish alongside Stewart and Colbert. It is impossible to definitely know what will be useful to future journalists, scholars, educators, and citizens. As such, web archivists often strive to preserve as much online content as possible. Broadly preserving the web allows the public to hear the sounds of fringe MySpace bands, to accurately reference over 9 million previously broken Wikipedia citations, and to peruse the early digital culture through BBS archives. Preserving the web paves the way for historically conscious populace who will look back on the early internet to not only try to make sense of early 21st century political discourse, but to better understand the origins of their present digital environment and to unearth forgotten alternatives to their inherited web. But when we preserve and visit the remnants of digital culture's recent history, it behooves us to remember that this network realm, as imperfect and as frustrating as it can feel sometimes, is what we make it. And maybe if we realize that, we can start to again play a more active role in shaping a better collective future that many of us want. From J.D. Shadle, what early internet era just show us about preserving digital culture. Recent video game loss and preservation. Ooh. In 2022, the global gaming industry generated more revenue than both the global music and film industry combined by an estimated 132 billion. Video games are not only entertain us, they're works of art, educational tools, and at times vehicles for ideologies that are in need of scholarly study. Give me a sec. It's starting to get really hot in Saudi. Ooh. Because the gaming industry is larger now than ever before, it becomes all the more interesting to look back on its history so as not only to understand how household names such as Mario and Master Chief became so ubiquitous, but also to recover game histories that may have been forgotten during the massive expansion of the industry. Unfortunately, that history is practically impossible to study because games are not being sufficiently reissued by their rights holders, and because public serving institutions and fans have not been given the explicit right to make emulated or ported versions of commercially unavailable games available for the public to play. In July 2023, the Video Game History Foundation and the Software Preservation Network co-published a study by Phil Salvador, library director at the Video Game History Foundation, on the commercial availability of historical video games, which he defines as games originally produced for a platform or operating system that is no longer in production or being supported. Salvador investigated the availability of over 4,000 historical video games across different platforms from 1960 to 2009. What he found was devastating. Nearly 90% of the game industry's historical output is inaccessible without acquiring vintage games and hardware from the expensive secondhand market. Visiting library collections in person due to restrictions imposed by the Digital Millennium Copyright Act or resorting to piracy. As a game developer, I've been in the rare and fortunate position of being able to archive and share source code, assets, and development materials from many of my games. One reason is that my publishing contracts let me keep the copyrights. Unusual even in the 1980s, almost unheard of today. By Jordan Mechner. Game designer and graphic novelist. Did he work on Prince of Persia? Oh, he did work on Prince of Persia. Very cool. Damn. Salvador's study revealed that not a single decade in the history of video games exceeded 20% commercial availability. Perhaps even worse for the game historians and members of the public who enjoy playing old games, the reissue rate for pre 1985 games was below 3%. This absence in commercial availability is undoubtedly driven by the costs associated with keeping games up to date and running. What makes video games unique and expensive to keep available is the hardware and software they run on, which must be constantly updated in order to remain usable. That work is labor intensive and it is not cheap. Josh Fairhurst, CEO of Limited Run Games, a company that specializes in game reissues, estimates that the porting of a single historical game to a modern platform can cost $350,000. The ability to port a game to another platform also assumes that the developer still has access to their game's original source code, which is often lost or unavailable. Hotel California. All right. Ability to port a game is to another planet also assumes that the developer still has access to the game's original source code, which is often lost or unavailable, especially for older titles. Big publishers understandably would not spend money reissuing games with low commercial interest. Gaming communities and archives have demonstrated their aptitude and passion for the meticulous work of making commercially unavailable historical games and other obscure software accessible to the public through porting and emulation. However, their ability to do that work is frustrated by legal ambiguities around often works. Okay, it's hard for me to walk and stream today, so I'm just going to keep it at a 30-minute run. Oh shit. Thank you for the. Oh, Sofana. Hello. Thank you for the follow. How are you? You randomly find me on the algo? I'm alright. I haven't seen you live in a bit. What have you been up to? Ah, we're reading this article. Not article, book. I'm allowed to read it on stream because it's Creative Commons license. It's about you've been on a break. Hope it's going well. Um it's linked it's pinned on the top, but it's by the Internet Archive about preserving old media and digital media. And I used to work at a library, so like this stuff is archiving media is like something I'm very passionate about. Say hi to Sofana Atlas. Yeah. A moment. Back. All right. It is a kitty cam. Look, kitty. Say hi, Atlas. No, don't be indecent. Wait, maybe I just keep it like this. Yeah, I'll keep it like this. That way you guys get a better view of Atlas. Atlas. Good boy. Let me clean your eye. One second. Alright. Yes. How often do I stream? I try to every day, Safana, but I have a full time job, so sometimes it's super tired. But around this time, it's 11 o'clock right now, PM. So I try to start like around 9, 10, 2 hours ago, but today had a longer nap. But I try every day. I do varieties. I'm all over the place. If I feel like gaming, or game. But my niche is more being in the software and game dev category. Yay, thank you. Appreciate it. Don't force yourself. All right. Orphan works, more frequently called abandonware in the software communities, are any works protected by copyright, such as books, films, music, or software that publishers no longer make commercially available to the public, but whose copyright is still held by rights holders who, thank you for the lurk, who either cannot be located or do not respond to usage inquiries. Abandonware is often quite popular and culturally significant. Culturally significant, such as the original Oregon Trail, without which our understanding of late 20th century American schooling is fundamentally incomplete. Because our copyright lengths are so long, abandonware disappears from the public memory when the hardware necessary for playing the game disappears, and when rights holders do not release their source code to the public, which would allow preservationists to update the game for newer systems, even when archives do not have these games and their code. They're hesitant to update and make abandonware available to play online in the event that litigious right holders emerge from the shadows and claim an infringement of their copyright. Without copyright exemptions allowing libraries and archives to emulate their game collections, there is little that they can do to make their game history and other historical software available to the wider public. Software preservationists and the game enthusiasts have long advocated for copyright exception that would allow video game researchers and teachers remote access to games held by libraries, and an explicit protection for institutions preserving and making abandonware available to the public. Corporations, however, are reluctant to allow these exceptions. In a response to questions about these copyright exceptions, Mike Gallagher, CEO of Entertainment Software Association, the Video Games Industry Trade Association, remarked that there is no such thing as an obsolete game when you can revive it on any platform at any time. It is digital. From our perspective, there is no merit under the term obsolete. Under the omnipresent possibility of a profitable reissue, Gallagher's statement makes it clear that corporations will hold on to their rights over any digital content for full copyright term around a century. Let me clean your eye. Far too long for anyone to still be around to remember the importance of that work in the first place. Despite Gallagher's points that digital materials can technically be revived at any time, Salvador's study reveals that very few games are actually reissued by publishers. Unless changes are made to our laws to allow libraries and their patrons better access to these games, they and often other software libraries will continue to rot and vanish from our memory. That vanishing is not detrimental. That vanishing is not just detrimental for gamers and scholars attempting to reestablish the significance of video games across time. It erases the labor of countless artists who poured their time, energy, and passion into the production of these works. Alice, I can't see. Yo, Mr. Anti-Communist, what's up? What is cooking with bacon? Come here, come here, come here, come here. Bro, since I got this bigger desk, this guy's claiming his territory. I think proposing laws to give rights to other people's work is a very slippery slope. I think copyright is broken in general, and it's like there are relatively new laws. But we'll see. It's just this is about preserving and archival of like culture and being mainly about giving researchers the ability to study not only like games or movies but like old news publications, and it's not about the whole article is not about giving rights to existing work that's publicly accessible. It's about old works that's not accessible. So a researcher should be able to go to their local library and loan out the work so that they can research it, right? But if that means is not available, that means there's a flaw in like an accessibility flaw or a flaw in the system that doesn't allow libraries to be able to archive that work easily. And it also addresses the costs that go into being able to like archive. And right now, most of the means, what if the author doesn't want to give it away for free? What if the author doesn't want to give it away for free? I don't understand what you mean. Like loan it out in the library? So like back in the day, like say before digital licensing became a thing, right? I could buy a cassette of a movie and then I could give it to a friend. You want the author to stop me from being able to do that? Or I finish a game, I enjoyed it, I want to loan it to a friend who has the console. I can't do that now, right? This doesn't really, it's not about giving content for free. It's more about like, I'm having a hard time articulating this, but I'm like reading this report, this book by the Internet Archive. As I go through it, I think I'll have a better time answering these questions. But most of my opinions are half baked. Top Killing Games crew, for example, really don't understand how infrastructure works. That's a completely different, like, I don't know the entirety of the Stop Killing Games initiative, but that's not, I don't think that's at all related to vanishing culture. Anti-communist. Came in without any context? No. So this book by the Internet Archive, here, right? It's about like a report on how it's hard, it's getting challenging to preserve and archive like culture. They start off by talking about how books have been the easiest form of preserving culture. But now in the digital world, it's becoming difficult. Like news articles disappear. The means of being able to access it are illegal. Like, yeah, you can find these some copyrighted works available on the internet, but if a researcher wants to like research a particular piece, like for example, a lot of movies and shows are delivered via streaming subscriptions, but like the early Kobe show and the Kobe show and what's his name? Another guy from the 80s and 90s. A lot of their episodes are not available, even though the subscription service promised that you'd be able to access the full library of content when you buy their subscription. But if someone wants to like do a deeper dive, they would have to go through an illegal means to be able to research it. The great thing. I don't want any culture in the 90s to be preserved. Not just in the 90s, it's like early 2000s and our current era. But I guess before then, most media, it's easy to be preserved, but it's harder to redistribute. Like Nintendo cartridges, they might be like popular games that you can easily find the source code for. A lot of the people who are like in the book and they give talking points are people that made games like Prince of Persia that are advocating for making these archival means easy. All right, I'm not articulating myself well. And a lot of my takes are half baked. I want to learn from the Internet Archive and the people behind this book. And as we go, we can address the points one by one. But if you're interested in reading it on by yourself, there you go. Okay, other changes are made to our laws to allow libraries and their patrons better access to these games. They and other software libraries will continue to rot and vanish from our memory. That vanishing is not just detrimental for gamers and scholars attempting to establish the significance of video games across time, it erases the labor of countless artists who poured their time, energy, and passion into the production of these works of art, only for their work to be locked away by right. Yeah, Yes, on communist. And I worked at a library, so I worked alongside a lot of like librarians who in the end conclude that the best means of archival uh, is torrenting. And the people that get in their way when they want to access legal work and like other copyrighted material are data brokers. Okay. Free market logic suggests that the most popular games of all time will continue to be available until they enter the public domain. Even if that was true, and Salvador's study strongly suggests that it is not, a preservation practice that preserves only the greatest hits seeds cultural memory and history to only the most popular works of a narrow time period and the interests of their financial backers. Classically, archives are brutal, desolate places to find humanity. They were never meant to record the nuances of the flesh and blood existence of so much. Sorry, the nuances of flesh and blood existence so much as they originate as the way governments keep track of their resources. It has taken millennia for us to conceive of records as places where humanity might be honored rather than betrayed. This is an epic change. I am in awe. Um, you'd be fine if yeah. Um, but a library would rather be able to loan out many licenses. But the state of the way things are right now is it's like a monops. The word monopsony, where, for example, the way the RAM prices are at right now is like a single set of buyers, which are hyperscalers, are dictating the way the pricing is. Um, so it becomes really hard for libraries to be able to get as many licenses as they want so that they can loan it out. Um, Libraries cannot, like, they won't go an illegal route, right? They are not gonna rip the source code and redistribute a million copies because it's illegal. It doesn't go in line with modern copyright laws. But they can just bite like any consumer, though. If the copies are available, yeah, but it's not easy to get their hands on as many copies as they want. Usually, they'd have to like get it donated by someone that preserves like older copies historically, like say an old movie or yo, what up, hot dog say water, an old movie. Like you can rent DVDs out of the library, right? You can rent a DVD from the library, but if many people want the same DVD at the same time, they can't really get access to it. There are ways where they try to like make it easier for you. So where that was. There is the interlibrary loan system where libraries are connected to each other. So you can look for a copy on queer history. You see, this is why nobody wants to support these things. Because not cultural history is their version of culture. Like, so if I say Indian history, it's not Indian history, it's Indian version of cultural history. It's like if I say history of Great Britain, it's not the history of Great Britain, it's the history of Great Britain from the lens of the British. There can be two sides. They can be like history of queer history from the lens of someone else, and then there can be queer history from their own perspective as well, right? Um, Classically, archives are brutal, desolate places to find humanity. They're the modern ideology. I don't know, man. Everything's modern. 10, 20 years ago, what was modern at the time. And people had their own issues with the ideology at the time. There's always issues. You can always complain. I'm just like, I'm a third person reading. I can cope, but people ain't buying it. See elections everywhere. Okay. Classically, the archives are brutal, desolate places to find humanity. They were never meant to record the nuances of flesh and blood existence so much as they originate as a way governments keep track of their resources. It has taken millennia for us to conceive of records as places where humanity might be honored rather than betrayed. This is an epic change. I'm in awe of the fact that I live in a time where the heft of documentary history, clay, parchment, paper, and now pixel is shifting. Paradigms from records kept by anonymous paid laborers to flatten life into statistics, to records kept by people who dare to name themselves and their subjectivity, who collect something of themselves and their obsessions for other kindred spirits to find. Brooke Palmery, Cultural Preservation and Queer History. Look, anti-communist. A lot of the policies that I do like are leftist, but I do spend my time everywhere on the internet, and I don't take people's opinions from the right with a grain of salt either, because everyone's experience is valid. Like everyone has opinions because of what they went through in life, that and if they bring up a grievances, it comes from like a real place, right? I don't want to dismiss your experience. I don't want to dismiss people on the less experience as well. Like, you're saying I'm coping, but I'm just saying like I will take all the information I want, and I'm still too young, and I'm not a sociologist. I'm not like an economist. I personally am not in charge of like making these decisions. Um, I'm just someone that's like wandering through the world, learning. That's learning about different people, why they are the way they are. And I don't want being on one side or the other blinding me from learning another person's lived experience. It seeds cultural memory and history to only the most popular works of a narrow time period and the interests of their financial backers. History teaches us that the values that determine what is worthy of preservation and what is not. Not all experiences are valid if you lived an academic, but an academic that's lived an academic life comes from a like shares perspective from like academia, right? I'm going to take into account that he's been in academia. I'm not going to say his experience was not valid. I don't. I'm not going to say an industrialist who learned all of their views are invalid because they only work industry. These people have a monopoly over publishing. I don't know where you're going with this, man. Anyways, history teaches us that a lot of the people in this book aren't just academics. They're people who worked in the industry as well. History teaches us that the values that determine what is worthy of preservation and what is not are always subject to change. the historical erasure and devaluation of Black, Indigenous, and other people of color, LGBTQ plus, and women's history and culture in the United States and beyond show us that a historical moment can be dangerously inaccurate in its evaluation of value, causing legacies of joy and oppression to vanish through bias preservation practices. For example, one book that I came across in the library was from 1880. It was from a British anthropologist who lived in Sri Lanka before Sri Lanka was called Sri Lanka, when it was called Ceylon. And then he was talking about like the Vedas. Vedas are like you could say they're the indigenous people of Sri Lanka. They're very like underrepresented in Sri Lanka now. But like this is something that I would have never learned in school, because most of what I learned about Sri Lankan history is just about Sinhala, Tamil, Muslim, Christian, and not about like the Veda population. So like there is some sort of like politics involved that led to like what I learned in school. But because that work was preserved and I came across that book, I was able to like, okay, there's more. Who's this? I got a fall. Damn it. Kick. I got to see a view of an outsider of who made a who published something about what they've observed in our country. And it's not just about it wasn't like biased from the eyes of like someone that was tarnished by our internal politics. So they're doing the exact same thing. You see it in this very article. Okay. The social significance of broad profit disinterested preservation is in ensuring that works that were once commercially unsuccessful, perhaps because they were meant for a specific community or were ahead of and controversial in their times and are remember. Also, sorry, hot dog their water. What's up, Meowdy? Perhaps because they were meant for a specific community or were ahead of and controversial in their times, are remembered, appreciated, and available for critical study and reevaluation in the present and future. Adrian Shaw, professor of media and communication at Temple University, created the LGBTQ video game archive in order to document games containing LGBTQ content, including queer characters, gay history and representation, and even homophobic and transphobic content. The 1,200 sounds good. You don't have to be here, anti-communist. But like you're doing the exact thing you're claiming me to do. Like I will read right-wing shit, right? But you're saying I'm cope to like turn a blind eye against it. So who's coping? that's low-key like kind of if you don't want to listen and hear the other side out, you're just gonna like whatever shit's in your head, the presumptions you've made, you're just gonna stick to what you already know. From the sci-fi game series Mass Effect, which has been remastered and is commercially available, to little one-offs such as Namco's one. If you're not willing to listen to all people, you don't have to believe if they're right or wrong. You should just be willing to listen, anti-communist, right? You should just be willing to listen. Like always interrupting and saying like, you're wrong, my side's right, you always have to listen to my side. Like, that's not how I want to operate my channel. I want to be able to have everyone come and have their say. One of the first video games to have same-sex marriage option, which is now commercially unavailable. Shaw and the LGBTQ video game archive have frequently teamed up with the Internet Archive to ensure that these historically important games are available for research and access. Consider the 20 video games from 1980 that Shaw and her team identified as containing LGBTQ content. 10 of these games are preserved and accessible through an emulation at the Internet Archive software library. An additional 5 games have full playthroughs available for viewing on the Internet Archive. Of the remaining 5 games, 4 are commercially available or have an emulated version available somewhere else. And one has a full playthrough available for viewing on YouTube. All in all, 75% of the identified LGBTQ video games from the 1980s are preserved and accessible in playable or viewable form through the Internet Archive. Without the work of researchers like Shaw and public preserving institutions like the Internet Archive, these games might very well have vanished from public memory. Yo, what up, Crow? How are you? In his infamous Manifesto for a Ludic Century, professor and game designer Eric Zimmerman declared the 21st century to be the century of the game. Games are beautiful. They do not need to be justified. He remarks at the end of his manifesto, appreciating the aesthetics of games, how dynamic interactive systems create beauty and meaning, is one of the delightful and daunting challenges we face in this dawning ludic century. Game appreciation is impossible. This checking sounds good. Thank you. Thank you. Game appreciation is impossible when games are more than a few years old, are kept from public access by publishers hoping for a future profitable reissue. As the Committee for Film Preservation and Public Access declared in 1993 statement to the Library of Congress, preservation is great, but preservation without access is pointless. The public needs improved access to be able to learn from and enjoy a diverse gaming history. From massive hits like StarCraft and Minecraft to Caper in the Castro, perhaps the very first gay and lesbian-based adventure mystery game, which was notably distributed as a work of careware, asking players to donate to an AIDS charity of choice instead of paying the creator directly for a copy. An equitable curation, appreciation, and study of game history can only be accomplished when public serving institutions are allowed to purchase, own, and make commercially unavailable games available to play online. "75% of the video games tracked by the LGBTQ video game archive from the 1980s are preserved and accessible in some form through the Internet Archive." Historical losses and the future of cultural preservation. Having discussed recent instances of cultural loss and preservation, we can look to examples from the film and music industries to see what happens when long-term preservation and availability is left in the hands of publishers. In a talk he gave at the Library of Congress in 1993, film historian, archivist, and preservation Robert... Oh, I did a whole chapter. Shall we do another? We'll do another. Historical losses and the future of cultural preservation. Having discussed recent instances of cultural loss and preservation, we can look to examples from the film and music industries to see what happens when long-term preservation and availability is left in the hands of publishers. In a talk he gave at the Library of Congress in 1993, film historian, archivist, and preservationist Robert Harris, who worked on restoration of cinema masterpieces such as Lawrence of Arabia, Vertigo, and The Godfather trilogy, detailed the cause of early film loss. We have all heard many times that we have already lost some 50% of the films made before 1950, that our nitrate heritage is slowly turning to powder before our eyes while the budgets and times are running out. This is all true, but it gives the impression that all of these nitrate films simply decomposed while attempts were being made to preserve them. This is untrue. Most of the early films did not survive because of the wholesale junking by the studios. There was no thought of ever saving these films. They simply needed vault space and the materials were expensive to house. The majority of the silent film era is completely gone as a result of these junkings by studios. In 2013, report jointly published by the Library of Congress and Council on Library and Information Resources, film historian and archivist David Pierce concluded that only 14% of American silent feature films, 1,575 of 10,919 titles, survive as originally released in complete 35 copies. That level of loss is what happens when the bottom line motivates what is saved and what is trashed. As journalist and information activist Maria Bustillos writes, publishers are not archivists, they're not librarians, and they shouldn't be in control of cultural posterity. Culture does not only vanish when all extant copies suddenly disappear, it vanishes when the public forgets about its existence. While the history of the silent film era shows us how profit motivation can directly lead to cultural loss, the present state of historical sound recordings show us how obscene copyright lengths. Coupled, how are you, Kroll? What have you been up to? Coupled with, hey, Atlas, come here. Culture to the masses, hell yeah. While the history while the history of silent film era shows us how profit motivation can directly lead to cultural loss, the present state of historical sound recordings show us how obscene copyright lengths, coupled with physical media obsolescence, equally leads to loss. In a 2005 report commissioned by National Recording Preservation Board at the Library of Congress, media executive and historian Tim Brooks quantifies the degree to which right holders of historical sound recordings have made available, either directly or through licensees. Past recordings that they control by counting how many protected music cylinders and records have been reissued as CDs out of a random multi-genre sample of 1,522 music recordings from 1890 to 1964, Brooks discovered that only 36 of these recordings were available on CD. The numbers were particularly abysmal for protected ethnic music, only 1% reissued, alongside jazz and ragtime, blues and gospel, and popular music. All around only 10% reissued, suggesting that musicians of color are disproportionately affected by right holders failing to reissue music. Without digitizing or transferring the oldest of these recordings stored on fragile and decaying music cylinders and 78s. What's the 78s? And what do music cylinders look like? Oh, like this. It is a phonograph, right? Oh, yeah, phonograph cylinder. And what's the 78s? Okay, the normal record. These recordings containing the earliest records of American music will disappear. The root of the problem, as Brooks notes, is copyright. Copyright law only rights holders to make these recordings accessible in current technologies. Yet the rights holders appear to have few real world commercial incentives to reissue many of their most significant recordings. The law has severely reduced the possibility of such recording. One moment. this is not enough. Of course, people must have no thought about tomorrow's wage salary. The life must be guaranteed good enough to be able to be cultured. Yeah, bruh. I feel that. But there are people whose work is about preserving the culture, right? Like that's a job of, like, one of the biggest jobs of a librarian is being able to keep a record of what's librarian and historian is to keep this record so that people who do have the time and people in the future when a lot of like modern problems are not as like in the future, hopefully we get to a point where most people are fed, they have a roof over their head, they don't have to worry about trying to feed themselves or their kids. They'll get time on their plate to be able to appreciate the past, right? And we want to make sure that um, all of this is documented and recorded for them to be able to appreciate it to the most truest form. Um, Anti-communist point was that, like, yeah, maybe archive.org has a political leaning, and it may influence their ability to like be selective in things that they archive, but in the end they're still um advocating for better means and accessibility for us to be able to archive and not have many restrictions in place to be able to store these records so that they'll be accessible in the future. And it would also like help further like whatever art, like where whatever think pieces or news sources he accesses, right? If we come to a world where only like people of a certain political background are able to archive news sources that relate to like their views only, we'll have a very biased future. But if everyone is able to like archive journalistic works from all across the political spectrum, then in the future people will be able to accurately tell, like, oh, what was the state of the world in 2020, what kind of views were going across the internet, what was the discourse like. And now with AI and LLMs, you can have a back and forth, and the LLMs can also like do a scan throughout all the think pieces going across a certain period of time and provide a more accurate answer instead of an answer that's backed by a political ideology. Recall that, as a general rule, copyright lasts the life of the author plus 70 years or 95 years in the case of works made for hire. As all hardware and software continues to change, most content that is not only reissued will either fade away into obscurity or physically decay long before it enters the public domain. Indeed, new media obsolescence is where print origins of the United States copyright law show their age. Per the Constitution, copyright's intent is to promote the progress of science and useful arts. This schizophrenia comes from private property on everything, including culture. Private property on data got born, hacking and cybersecurity just shenanigans, and that just melt brains. The schizophrenia from who's schizophrenia? Are you talking about me? Or are you talking about anti-communist crash out? Indeed, new media obsolescence is where the print. Okay, all the copyright grant creators a monopoly over their work. Grants created the monopoly over their work. The Supreme Court recognizes that monopoly as a temporary grant with but what brings me back to 2000 internet was an ability to go into forums, ask a question, get into an in-depth conversation, then continue the topic a little bit. Currently, feel we've lost all that. Everything was in super semi-formal human manner. I mean, that those that archive are rich people who do influence. Yeah, that's true. Penguin operator. Um, but if you democratize this process, make it easier for the average person to archive, right? Without having to break the law, because it is easy to archive, but you're going to break so many laws in the process. Um, I, there are still like Nintendo games from the 80s that if I wanted to rip democratize it, welcome to communism, bro. Penguin, don't tell anti-communist this. But like, yeah, I'm a lot of what I believe in like is in line with communism. Marxist Lenin same time? Hell yeah. Let's fucking go. Wait, Penguin, I'm so sorry. This whole time I assumed you were male. I'm sorry. Fuck. But thank you for sharing and let me know. I just don't see pronouns. That yeah, I shouldn't have assumed. Um Cool. But we should like brings back to 2000, ability to go into forums, ask a question, get an in-depth conversation, and continue the topic for a little bit. Um it's kind of there. Um it is kind of there. You just need to not give in to the only issue is like you can do it on Twitter, you can do it on like the other like microblogging platforms. Um the only thing is we are heavily influenced by the algorithms, like pushing us like what gets more attention is put in front of our eyes. So it's harder to have that discourse. But the whole like this whole book is about being able to preserve even those forums and the activity and the forum culture that we used to have back in the 2000s. Just in case they want to have something on you. When I first came, I also misgendered some people and got banned. Oh, okay. Funniest thing is I didn't understand the question. Yeah, what you see by default is dictated by what the masses see. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, it's so hard for me to pool myself in like a political category, but a lot of like just I am like a very I don't know, I have a hard time dealing with the concept of big government, but I want workers and laborers to be able to um have control over their output, like have ownership over their work. And that's pretty much what communism like comes down to. And if that's being communist, I guess I'm a communist. Below they talk about monopoly of provider. This is just conspiracy theory. Drop it. Okay, I want to read it. I still want to learn about it. Okay, indeed, new media obsolescence is where print origins about public property on everything. Okay. Yeah, see that's including hardware, software, and culture, of course. So I don't know the ins and outs, right? So that's why I have a hard time like grouping myself in a category. But I have um my friend of the channel. He's the guy I would go to learn everything about um uh Marxist Leninist Marxist Leninist communism is Arun Annau. So if you are interested in learning about South Asian politics and being around a community of other Marxist Leninists, highly recommend giving his channel a follow. He's a good friend of the channel. He's a software engineer. He's based in the US. Indeed, new media obsolescence is where print origins of United States copyright laws show their age. Per Constitution, copyright intent are more about Russia, USA, and Europe. Well, if you're interested in seeing like what's happening in South Asia, like because there's already a lot of information going around on paper is best as possible, but it cannot work because most wants to have more and more. Communism assumes a fair share. I'd say the same about capitalism, though. So I don't know, like, but I'm really not the person to be able to like, um, I don't have like a fixed opinion, and I do not have the knowledge to be able to whatever I back my claims in in this discourse. To promote the progress of science and useful arts by securing for limited times to authors and inventors um, the exclusive right to their respective writings and discoveries. Although copyright grants creators a monopoly over their work, the Supreme Court recognizes that monopoly as a temporary grant, with public access always being its end goal. The monopoly privileges that Congress may authorize are neither unlimited nor primarily designed to provide a special private benefit. Rather, the limited grant is a means by which an important public purpose may be achieved. It is intended to motivate the creative activity of authors and inventors by the provision of a special reward and to allow the public access to the products of their genius after the limited period of exclusive control has expired. Okay. Copyright exists to incentivize creators to make ingenious works for the public good. Yet copyright's purported goal of allowing the public access to the products of a creator's genius cannot be achieved when the public can only license and stream digital materials, and when the physical media degrades beyond repair after nearly a century of distribution control. As all hardware and software continues to change, most content that is not reissued will either fade away into obscurity or physically decay long before it enters the public domain. Right holders sitting on you always want isolated communists and countries are never be able to import enough. Rights holders sitting on the rights for material and blocking blocking libraries from making them available is inconsistent with public aims of copyright. What is consistent with the intents of copyright is empowering public serving institutions to preserve and make culture available in the long term. That work, um, I appreciate like the conversation that's happening, and I'm happy with the way it's going. But just remember, like you're having a conversation with each other, right? And you're learning from each other. As long as like you have that in the back of your head, like I'm happy with what's happening in chat. That work is essential for cultural longevity and prosperity. After all, cultural historians know that the greatest works of art take time and widespread dissemination to become culturally significant. Imagine American film history without Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life. What so many families now recognize as the cherished Christmas film was a massive commercial failure when it was released in 1946. Copyright law at the time protected the film for 28 years, with the option to renew copyright for another additional 28 years after the initial period expired. The film's rights holders, Republic Pictures, did not renew their copyright, causing the film to fall into public domain. Television studios subsequently played the cost-free content nonstop around the holidays, allowing the film to be reevaluated as a Christmas classic by a new generation. Were copyright terms as long as they are now, the film ranked by the American Film Institute in 1998 as the 11th greatest American movie of all time very well may have vanished from public memory, or its nitrate film stock may have been junked like so many of its ilk. What can we do? How much more of this chapter is remaining? Okay, there's 2 pages more. The case of It's a Wonderful Life demonstrates how economics and the taste of the present and are poor predictors for long-term cultural value. Public archives are necessary for ensuring that culture is not prematurely erased by seemingly low commercial interests, and that factual information is safeguarded from nefarious actors. These institutions will continue to perform the unprofitable work of preserving our knowledge and cultural heritage as best as they can. But that work can only be done if we financially, legally, and culturally empower librarians, archivists, and preservationists to do the work that they have dedicated their lives to doing. Hot dog flavor water, are you there? How are you, man? What have you been up to? Good, good. Gaming? Nice. I was just chilling. I had a rough day working on my work stuff. I was thinking about you, you and Nil specifically. Guys, I want you all to I want to take this moment to like appreciate hot dog flavor water. Nil is not here, but like both of them are like OGs in the channel, and like they've always been around, keeping me company, hanging. So like any success or like happiness that I get from streaming, it's like mainly like hot dog flavor water and Nil Pointer being around here since like almost day one. Day one was zero, but like since they came, it really leveled up like my streaming journey. So yeah, just wanted to be cheesy for a little bit. Beers and league work today, yeah, because I'm this compliance effort. Yeah. Oh man, I'm happy. I'm happy that like you're having a good time as long as you're not feeling forced to come here. You're not you're not coming here with a gun to your head. Yo, wait. Your sister-in-law has North Korean roots, scroll? That's crazy. Bro, I kind of like want to go to North Korea and see what life is like. But I don't know. Like, I have a very weak passport. And if I visit North Korea, I feel like it'll nuke it. Like, no country will be able to take me after. She mentioned that once? That's insane. Fucking. Wait, let's see if I can get this first try. He's dead! Fucking mosquitoes. Bitch ass motherfuckers. These institutions will continue to perform the unprofitable work of preserving our knowledge and cultural heritage as best as they can. They're fairly friendly to it. So you can visit North Korea. Visit North Korea for Russian nationals. Hungover? I think he's like fixing his sleep schedule. North Korea tours. Yesterday he like pieced out, I guess, because he didn't sleep the day before. Still suspended. Out of the way tourist destination in the market. Sorry for the misinformation. I don't know. I just opened two links. I haven't come to a conclusion on whether or not I can. And I don't really trust AI overviews. We'll still find out. North Korea is huge. Like, look at the size. Huge compared to South Korea. But I guess these islands are South Korean owned, right? What is this? South Korea, yeah. This is Japanese owned? This is Japanese. Oh, wait, did Ghost of Tsushima happen here? Um, yes, I agree, Penguin. USA? Yeah, they do have their equivalent, Yandex. Yeah, I can't really shit on the US mainly because I have very strong ties, although like I echo your sentiment, and I have a very close family member that works for the United States Embassy. I like them to keep their jobs and not have my opinions get in the way. The law has demonstrated its ability to protect libraries in the age of physical book lending, but it must now move to protect the rights of digital archives and their patrons. The public can advocate for legislative reform, whether that be shorter copyright terms or protections for non commercial preservation and accessibility efforts, so that members of all communities can access and have their cultural heritage properly preserved. The word vanishing suggests that our culture is in the process of disappearing and that cultural erasure may be reversed. Indeed, it can by letting individuals and institutions purchase, own, and lend material and digital culture. The promise of the internet as a public repo of knowledge carries on through the daily labor of open access digital archives and their custodians. The Internet Archive, as one such archive, provides one guard against vanishing culture. A lot of these people that work at libraries and historians, archival, low-key, they are like commies. They just like have to navigate doing their activities within the bounds of like the legal system. So they can't break copyright. They can't um like to further their goals. If they do want to do true archival, they would prefer to use like torrenting, because in the end a librarian is supposed to digest. Like, you go to a librarian, you say, I want to learn about this and this around the time that this and this happened. That's wrong about. He just came at a time when the buzzwords, the buzzwords that trigger him um were brought up. So he made a very broad assumption about what the book was about based on like two paragraphs. If he came earlier in the book, right, like when I did part one, there's a lot of stuff that he would agree with. But yeah, this book is not about like capitalism or communism. It's about preserving culture. The word vanishing, it may talk about the challenges in capitalism that gets in the way, but it's not like a direct critique of capitalism. The word vanishing suggests that our culture is in the process of disappearing and that cultural erasure can be reversed. Indeed, it can by letting individual institutions purchase, own, and lend material and digital culture. The promise of the internet as a public repo of knowledge carries on through the daily labor of open access digital archives and their custodians. The Internet Archive, as one such archives, provides one guard against vanishing culture. However, it cannot be the only mechanism for historical preservation. The recent destruction of libraries and archives in Ukraine and Gaza has tragically demonstrated the ever present fragility of public memory repos. Supporting and contributing to open access digital archives such as Project Gutenberg, E3. Is Project Gutenberg still available? But these are all like public domain, right? For which US copyright has expired. Okay. You guys know zlib? New York Public Library's digital collections. And After Violence Archive. What's the After Violence Archive? Zlib, yeah. Educational purposes only. This is where you can find everything. Shadow Library Project. They have an onion link as well if you don't want your IP being tracked. See, the reason why they provide onion links to these websites, when you check out a book from a library, there's a record. The librarian keeps a record that Abu checked out a book at this time, or he checked out a series of books at this time. because there's a record of like the type of books you've checked out, law enforcement say they're researching a certain case, right? They can, and if they know that you're someone that goes to the library, or they might think, okay, this the mo of this person looks like he's been doing research on a certain topic. You can't easily find this research on um like sorry, to have found this research you would have gone to certain websites or gone to the local library. They can go to the library and they can like narrow down your name based on like the type of books that were loaned out. So the same can be done with the library. Like they can track IP requests downloading a certain like signature, a book signature. But if you use Onion Link, that kind of obfuscates like the source IP that's trying to download that book. Where is this hosted? Financed by user donations. Little is known about ZLibrary in terms of operation, management, and commercial status. Notably, ZLibrary does not open its full database to the public. Despite that, its database, excluding the ones from LibGen, was mirrored in Anna's archive. Anna's archive, the one that archived all of Spotify, didn't they? For Shadow Library that was launched by pseudonyms Anna. Pirate Library Mirror. After Violence Project. After Violence Archive. Funding from the Mellon Foundation. Online repo for materials, correspondence, art, and other items. Documenting state-sanctioned violence in the United States. Collected by the After Violence Project and our community members from 2007 to present. Cool. To name only a few, alongside buying works from ownership, based media distribution platforms such as Bandcamp and HIO would collectively help ensure that cultural heritage does not disappear when a single archive or publisher goes down. Of course, there are times when centralized preservation makes sense and is necessary, such as with sacred knowledge and sensitive information. Such content is necessarily location and context specific and requires a specially trained community's care to ensure that these materials are not misused. The problem, however, arises when media conglomerates, government officials, influential public figures, and news organizations alone hold the keys to cultural and political memory. Whether it is cult film aficionados hosting local screenings of their old favorites, families uploading the photographs to the South Asian American Digital Archive, or authors making their works available to download on the Internet Archive. Our record is best preserved and most equitably produced when the people and public serving institutions have shared custodianship over their cultural heritage. Penguin, when are you going to start streaming? Is there anything getting in the way? Laws can be changed. Archived. Guys, you should follow Penguin. So when she makes her debut stream, she'll have a blast. Laws can be changed, archives can be funded, but perhaps when what is most needed is a cultural shift in the policymakers' perception of artistic production and custodianship. The Second Circuit's recent appellate opinion in Hachette versus Inner Archive invoked a profit-driven talking point of publishing industry that if authors and creators knew that their original works could be copied and disseminated for free, there would be little motivation to produce new works. Creators know that this is a gross oversimplification of the reasons they create. What we have now on YouTube is a more democratic, unfiltered sampling of living oral traditions. What we don't have is an archive of it. YouTube is a private entity. It could unilaterally announce a sunset policy for old videos or lose a lawsuit, or even go out of business, and then some or all of those videos would suddenly disappear. In the current context, this is what we mean by vanishing culture. Or not that music is dying. Mark F. Devitt, Music as Oral Tradition. I want to get another drink. I'll be right back. I have another iced tea. I thought I ran out. Dude, hot dog flavor water. Like next year, I'll be in like Ireland, right? Hopefully. Depends. If I do get the Caesar roll though, like the money will be good. It'll make a harder case for me to move out. I think I'd want to like save a fuck ton. Um, how far is Ireland? Okay, say Oslo. 80 euro prices? Is it that cheap? There are three airports. Okay, let's just add all three. I want to go for a week in July. How much would that be? Wait, that's insane. 29 EUR. What the fuck? Still, this is still like not bad. Man, traveling within Europe is insane. When I was in when I went last year, I was just so baffled that like I can land in one country and then take a train to another country. There's no border checking, no, like it was wild. It's pretty sweet, yeah. I get to experience so much. And you just jump. Were you there when I were you part of this channel? when I went to EU. When did you join? Sounds good, Penguin. Good luck. July 13th. When did I go to the US, EU? Wait, when was H Con Rotterdam 2025? Okay, it was a month before. Okay. I did a lot of drunk streams. Hot dog flavor water. It's going. It'll be a little harder now because I have family members tuning in. Ireland stream's gonna be crazy. Yeah, I'm excited. I want to have like a sweet. The other reason why I delayed it one more year is block them. Brother, you'll block them. It's not about. Let's see. The other reason is if I do go, I want a nice setup, right? I want like a big desk. I want like nice monitor stands. I want to get a new PC. I want a nice backdrop. The same walking pad, and that will already cost me like maybe, let's say, 15K SAR. So that will be around 3.5K euros, which is like almost 2.5 months rent. And even if I am making more money off of Twitch, then I won't be able to cash it out because on a student visa, you can't be doing freelance, and Twitch is considered freelance. Yo, Ilokimo. Hello, Ilokimo. How are you? Guys, Ilokimo streams as well. Ilokimo is from um, Jackie Coast channel. You guys gotta check it out. A lot of the artwork that Jackie works on, Ilokimo makes it better. Don't tell that. To that end, members of the public can create new hair hidden by cap. Oh, that's not my new hair, Ilokimo. That was from 2020 or 2019. Why do I even read this book? Because I have a deep appreciation for, because I brought it up. I worked at a library, so archiving and being like preserving old cultural work is something I have a deep appreciation for, and I love the Internet Archive. I use the Wayback Machine a lot when I was like during my younger years. I don't use it as much recently, but I love seeing like how websites evolve. Um, that's why I preserve songs. Do I preserve songs? I don't. I do listen to a lot of old songs. Yeah. Um. So like it's something I'm very passionate about. and share with us. Yeah, I do like sharing really old songs that I listen to. Um, and there has been like a common like topic that we did talk about on stream is how I think modern copyright is broken, and about retro gaming. Like we have Zeno. I don't. He didn't come today, but Zeno is a big. He's big into studying and getting retro game set up. My Clankusi. Oh yeah, Clankusi is part of it as well. Like it. All of my streams, the chat logs are parsed through, and there's a it kind of like notes the ups and downs of the stream, what I've talked about on stream. I can share the oldest song but you didn't know it's old. Let's do it. Ilokimo, you can request songs. You just do SR and song name. But cap is because my hairline is ass right now, Ilokimo. It's not very good. You don't want to see what's in the back. I can't go blonde anymore. Doesn't work. Wait, Hot of War, have you not seen? Have I not? Bruh. You've seen photos, yeah, you've seen. We need V2. Bro, I'll try to grow my hair out again. Do I know this song? That's the ad. Oh wait, you shared an ad. Am I anxious about Internet Archive future and archiving at all? Um, do you know the data hoarders movement? Data hoarder. So they're like a huge community on Reddit, and these people are dedicated. They dedicate a lot of their time into like having large storage and trying to archive a lot of the work that they appreciate. I don't have the infra for this or the time or money. I trust that a lot of the work will be preserved via torrenting. The only way it would be made inaccessible to me is if my internet access is cut off. Will this get me DMCA'd? 1927. I'll take the risk. 1967. Oh, here, let me play it on Firefox so I don't get into trouble. Dude, these animations are creepy. He's. What are you working on, Penguin? They are. This song has been sampled a lot for sure. This is the Futurama team. Am I right? Am I right? Yes. Nia. I'll have a look, Penguin. What the heck? That's so cool. Yeah. Dude, this video was made in 1967. It's ahead of its time. In a quick sec. Oh, this color now. So it's just a bunch of transistors. And vacuum tubes, yeah. Bro, this Futurama theme, like I have a deeper appreciation for it now. Like it brings a bigger, deeper meaning to the intro now. Although they did rip off this song. I kind of want to watch all of Futurama. They have new seasons. Psych rock. Oh, the year's 2525. Yeah. I mean, we don't. I guess. Do I see? Dude, this is a sweet music video. Not only the song, the music video. All right, I want to pick up the links of this and this. Then we'll go to. Do you know this tune? Elokimo Popcorn by Gershon Kingsley. This guy ahead of his time with the what was it called? The Moog synthesizer. Mooger. How does Flavor Water knows it from Crazy Frog? 'It's so trippy. Of the synth on the Martineau. Yeah, it has. Nightshade Dude. What's that, Nightshade Dude? For 1969, this is like ahead of its time. Martineau. 1927. Oh, I thought Moog was the father of electronic. What the heck? Um, how do I feel what I discovered something today. I thought the intro to Axel F. Crazy Frog. You know, when the frog is just like doing the ad libs. I thought that was original Crazy Frog, but no. No way. I saw a video on it today. You know the that part of the song. I thought that was like originally from the Crazy Frog song, but no, that's like from some 1997. Oh yeah, here it is. I want this as an audio request. Where's the channel? Is the IDS channel? The fuck? Things got too noisy for. Oh, there it is. Here, enjoy. Let me get this. Fuck. Harold Faltermeyer. Why is this name so familiar? Oh, this is the original Axel F. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I knew that this was by him. Wait. I wanna before we get into this, let's look at what Penguin's working on. Zide. Terminal-based ID in Odin. Ooh. And yeah, programming language. Oh, IO with a forward slash. Oh, interesting. Oh shit. Did I get in? I didn't apply bad cop. Did they already accept people? I'm gonna do the next batch. I didn't want to half-ass it. After reading it, I was like, man, maybe I should take this a little bit more seriously and put in a good application. Let's do this as well. Oh wait, I have a little bit more of this article, and then we'll just hang. The Grateful Dead, for example, did not say no to fans taping and sharing their live concerts. When digital audio files began to proliferate in the early aughts, the Dead endorsed the non-commercial sharing of MP3s containing their performances. As a result, the Live Music Archive holds over 17,000 recordings of Grateful Dead concerts for cultural posterity. And the Dead are no worse historically or financially for it. To that end, members of the public can create and encourage their favorite creators to create works under a Creative Commons license. This book is Creative Commons v4, which is why I can we promote? Oh, by the way, Follow Bad Cop if you aren't already. She's really cracked, like at what she does. Do not take whatever she says with a grain of salt. And she's really good at Guitar Hero. This report is published under the terms of the Creative Commons Attribution for International License, allowing readers to share and adapt the work however they like, provided that they attribute the original source. Publishing content under these licenses ensures that works are not needlessly forgotten by lengthy copyright restrictions, allowing the public to play a role in tending to the content that matters to them. Over 2.5 billion works have been published by creators around the world under a Creative Commons license, a testament to the everyday production of art and knowledge beyond maximal economic profit. The next one, narratives of cultural preservation and loss. Okay, we'll continue this tomorrow. I'm like a third of the way through the book. She also has a whole video of her reading the Bash manual. The entire Bash reference manual over 8.5 hours. Why would you do this to yours? All right, let's listen to. Also, what was that reference that Ilokimo gave me? I want to read about that guy. Onday. Day. Martineau. Ooh. Do you? I don't know. When I deal with such things, I like prepare a week in advance. I don't know. That's just how my brain works. Oh yeah, I know this song. Why do I know this song? Not in the real world. Your head is real. Yeah, definitely mean click. More cluttered when you start, which doesn't make any sense. Well, just dump it all in a box. Do I not have dark mode here? Does Wikipedia not have a dark mode? Damn it. Oh, no cat cam, so I can just go crazy. Early electronic musical instrument, moving a ring tied to a wire, creating wavering sound similar to a theremin. Bilateral vibrato keyboard was soon added. Dynamics and timbre are adjusted using controls in a drawer on the instrument's left side. A player of the ondes martenot is called an ondist. The onde martenot was invented in 1928 by the French invader. In fucking hell, why did I say invader? Backspace delete. Inventor Maurice Martenot. Born in Paris, known for his invention of the How long are you going to be in? Is it a permanent move to New York? Back up. That's a huge move, all the way from SF to. I didn't know you were a San Francisco person. Wow, all the way to New York. Are you moving like a lot of stuff, or just the essentials? Or are you packing up the whole house? I don't think any amount of money is gonna allow Nightshade Dude to step in California. I like California though. Someone made Angine de Poitrin cover with a microtonal onde. I don't know what this song is. Let's check it out. This is 27 minutes, man. Oh, wait, these are robots? Wait, are these humans? Oh, these are humans. Oh, is it just like a whole album? Wait, I saw a TikTok about these guys. You don't like him? You don't like him? Okay. There's something about them trying to like make music that like AI can't recreate. Dong schnoz. Okay. Oh, his nose looks like a dong. Right, right, right. Feet. Yo, hot dog flavor water. Someone I know got to gold 4 without having arms. How does that make you feel? Got to gold for playing with his feet. With her feet. Sorry, my bad. I misgendered. Good night, Crow. Take care. You just hate them because their nose is longer. Hot dog flavor water. Entering hell. Nice. Okay, let's listen to what this sounded like. And I want to see if I can find um a documentary on the Moog synthesizer. Music from the ether. Oh, I love this channel, British Span. Why is it using this? What the heck? Wait. What the heck? Art exists to bring some thoughts into ideas. Music is hard for you because it's hard to understand the ideas the author wanted to share. It's one way of self-expression, right? It's a form of self-expression. For me, text is my favorite. Like books have the ability to transport my mind to another world. This is your favorite. Is this metal? The song title, little less. Igor is metal. Okay. Damn, son. It's a talented chicken. Oh, there's more. Is meant no. He, yeah, I mean, all of the artists are usually mental, but his genre is metal. That's in the great little boy blue and the man in the moon. I love Barney. Why does he have a sock? I should rewatch How I Met Your Mother. I also want to rewatch the Invincibles, the Invincibles in the Incredibles. Right. I love this channel, British Path, historical archives, even from India. I also love Penguin. Earlier in my streams, we used to go through AT&T archives. I don't know if you've ever seen the videos from these channels, but there's a history of the vacuum tube and telephones, and then the transistor. And there's a whole video on the Unix operating system. So good. So good. The vacuum tube one, Unix. A lot of the older videos were in the transatlantic accent, which is a fake accent that was manufactured so that um, it would go over radio clearly. When, what? Yeah. There's this one streamer, I forget her name. Let's see if I can find her. She usually is on what channel? Those categories would be music. Yes. I don't know if she's live. Streamer with 1920s vibe. Yeah, if I find it, I'll let you guys know the next time. But her whole aesthetic is like old CRT shader, and she dresses up as per that era and plays music from back then and just like does deep dives. It's very interesting. People are so creative. Gaming or neither am I, but like it's cool to see like how dedicated people are. Like I like stuff from the 90s and early 2000s. That's mostly because of what I grew up with, and it has a nostalgic. It makes me feel nostalgic. Radio. Oh, kind of like the theremin. Yes, sec. Oh shit. Oh damn. Okay, what the hell? Very cool. But you can bend the keyboard for. That's why the keyboard was shaking. That's so cool. All right. I have work tomorrow, and I need to be sharp. I'm gonna call it here. Um, we'll do Moog synthesizer um documentary sometime soon. I wanna play The Farmer Was Replaced. So it's gonna be a good way to like itch to get the quarter itch and the gaming itch at the same time. Farmer is replaced. Have that installed now. Optimize the drone farm will be cool. I think it's Python based. Let's see. Oh, already installed. The miner was replaced. Yeah, it's similar to Python. Okay. Will be neat. We check it out. I know who I want to raid. We raid Arun, since we did talk about him today. What do we say to Arun? Thank you all for hanging. I kind of like went all over the place, but it was good to hang and chat. We'll do more. He's covering Tamil songs, so we'll see Arun geeking out about Tamil culture. All right. All right. Teach Abu how to install Gen 2. Oh wait, no. Gen 2 installations stream when. That's our date out message. All right. I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care. Bye.